Welcome back to Between2Bs, the official podcast of the B to SMB Institute and our 5,000 plus business to small business professionals. Today we're talking with Augment.ai's co-founder Jordan Ritter, serial entrepreneur and most famously co-founder of Napster. Jordan's latest venture sits at the intersection of modern sales and AI. He'll dive deep into the new sell of AI and the new sell with AI. How B to SMB sales pros can leverage AI tools for hyper-personalized outreach and dialogue, transforming how they sell to their SMB customers. Here we go. Hey, good day, Jordan Ritter. Yeah, it's great to have you back, man.
Same.
You are calling in all the way from Seattle. Here I am in Chicago with winter weather behind me. But you know, it's been too long since we've had one of our conversations, because we always kind of go pretty deep and into kind of the trends behind the trends, or what's really happening. So, but before we get into that, why don't you just give us a little background on yourself? You have such an incredibly impressive resume, but it's also really fun as well. So tell us about yourself.
I will try. I'll do my best here. I am a 6-time entrepreneur. I've been building something from nothing since 1999. Most people who have our level of gray in our beards know me as one of the co-founders of Napster, but there's a lot of folks who don't have gray in their beards that don't know what Napster is. So I talk about the other stuff in my career. I built my first AI company in 2002. That was before we were allowed to call it AI. We used to joke back then that if you used machine learning and you called it AI, an MIT graybeard would literally reach out of the computer and slap you in the face and shriek, "No, that's not AI." But the marketing people won that, and so it's AI now. Been doing it a lot. Like I said, building something from nothing is one of the hardest things you can do. It's a shame. It's the only thing I'm really good at. So I keep doing it. I'm on my 6th right now, and I'm really proud of and excited to talk about. But in general, I'm an engineer in my soul. As an entrepreneur, one of my many philosophies is that I'll do every job until I find someone better. This is how you hire up and not down. It means I start out cleaning toilets and cleaning kitchens and changing wastebaskets and maybe writing code. And I usually end up in the CEO role because that's the hardest job to replace. Right. It's also one of the worst jobs. But I've lucked out for the second time in my career. I've found someone better at it than me. And so now I get to be CTO and build tech team and product, which is where my heart and soul live. And then here we are today.
That's terrific. And your CEO, newly minted CEO, Andrew Fritz, right?
Yep.
Terrific guy, extensive digital leadership, and particularly digital sales background.
Unmatched.
Yeah.
It's
been around
unmatched.
To say the least. So a good companion for you. So why don't we dive in? Just, our audience, of course, is filled with people who are making a career of selling to small businesses. And so when they see the enormous impact that AI is having on small businesses, I want you to talk about that. I want you to talk about, because you've always been a fierce entrepreneur and fiercely proud of your relationship with small businesses and serving small businesses. So from your perspective, give us kind of this year behind us and this year ahead of us.
Yeah. It's interesting. If you'd asked me this question 2 weeks ago, I would have said something probably a little different.
Right.
But in the last couple of weeks, with DeepSeek coming out, the tables have turned and a lot of stuff is about to shift in pretty significant ways. I think I look at the last year. So I have a viewpoint of the last 2 years, really. 2023 was a lot of acceleration towards building technology and trying new things and seeing what would stick. And with ChatGPT coming out, it became mainstream and everybody's now familiar. And a lot of people think, hey, I just need another agent, another, ChatGPT subscription or cloud subscription. And I can just start putting stuff in here and it'll do the writing for me and it'll do this, it'll do that for me. And that's been interesting and fun to watch. I think, there's been some good things that have come out of that. And I think there's been some really bad things that have come out of that as well. One of the things we might talk about a little bit later is what we call the AI cliff. And just as a little bit of a pre-tell on that, sending out more emails is not better. It's not build stronger, more durable relationships with people. We used to have a spam problem. That was the AI company I built in 2002 was an anti-spam company. And people in the marketing world thought, oh, if I send out more email, I'll do more business and my customers will be happier. And nothing could have been further from the truth. The entire industry responded to stop that. And it looks like we might be at the cliff of another one, where it's not just spam in my inbox, but it's spam in my phone. It's spam in every possible medium and form now that we can customize content so quickly and deliver it. So like there is a cliff and we're at it, but I think we'll talk about it a little bit later. I think, what I'd say for the last year that's been really interesting to watch is how, everybody basically built their own thin veneer on top of OpenAI or whatever their favorite models were. And everybody delivered the same set of features. And now we have these table stakes. Give me meeting notes, give me transcription, give me summarization, give me vectorization. A lot of these things, people just come to expect. And even now there's still growing markets there around that stuff, but it's not really that interesting anymore. What I'm more interested in is understanding like, how do we actually move the ball forward on business? Not how do we write better emails, not how do we write, iterate more on an existing human product, but how do we actually do better, be better, learn better, grow better? And I think, back to the first conversation we had when we talked about the assistant's always with you, looking over your shoulder, it's your ear whisperer. We told that story from back in the day. I think there's better opportunity now than there ever was. This last year saw a little bit of experimentation with that, but I saw a lot of flat horizontal focus, and I think they're all losing out to the likes of Microsoft and OpenAI, which is kind of, obviously they're partners, but I used to joke that it would be a cold day in hell before Microsoft ever led the industry in technology. And here we are, it's freezing down there because, who knew that this large organization could move so quickly? New leadership, that's great. But it's actually had this reverse effect, I think, on innovation in the startup space, because it used to be, startups where you went to go do interesting things and you got to push the ball faster forward. And now it's like, if you get beat to market, what was the point? I've seen a couple companies I was advising over the last year that were building specialized pieces of technology using AI, and they got out innovated by companies with more resources, period. Even companies that weren't known to be able to move fast. So it's really, there's been a huge amount of disruption this last year. I think, again, we saw 2023 as like this kind of race to market, ChatGPT becoming mainstream. 2024 was this attempt at horizontalization. That's, I think, as OpenAI continues to evolve ChatGPT and Microsoft continues to spread out their product reach across their products, and larger companies do too, I don't know that there's going to be any real horizontal market competitors. Now we're starting to see this hyper shift towards verticalized applications, which we are a part of. My company is. And I think, again, I think everybody starts out with let me help you write emails. Let me help you, do these well-known tasks very, very easily. And everybody's got that. And nobody's really differentiated for that anymore. We're working on a ton of stuff that's actually oriented towards how do people do business? What's wrong with the way people do business? And how do we fix that and make that better versus how do I take something I do already existing in my business and make it possible to do it faster and with fewer humans? And as you and I both know, business is about relationships. Removing humans from the loop doesn't build better relationships, and ultimately it doesn't do more business. It does less.
Right. So I got so many great sound bites in there and so many great things to kind of pick up the string on. But I want to use the kind of a segue into the role that personalization has and come back to eventually to this idea that, particularly when we talk about the AI cliff, that efficiency is not and never has been effectiveness. Just because you can do it faster doesn't mean you're going to do it better. Whether you're digging a garden or you are applying AI to your overall marketing content. So it really is a kind of a wake up call, and hopefully SMBs won't misinterpret their disappointment for efficiency doesn't mean effectiveness, and then turn themselves off to the role that AI can play. Because very oftentimes, in past technology advances, that's been breaking point, where it's like, mobile's great and mobile advertising is great, but I'm just not getting the results that I think I should get. And so I'm going to quit altogether, not just figure out a better way, but to quit altogether. Anyway, let's talk about personalization, because I think it's when we first met, you described the technology that you were building in round 6 of an artificial intelligence, a virtual assistant that served as an air whisperer. I want for everyone's benefit, just tell me the story of
All right.
how you came about the air whisperer, the ear whisperer.
Yeah. So so we've always been working on this technology, right? Since the very beginning of this company. We came out of the Allen Institute for Artificial Intelligence Incubator, one of the top 3 AI institutions in the world. So Hallowed Halls, we originated from. Once we spun out of the incubator, we raised our first round of financing. We were sitting around the table, trying to think about because one of the hardest things was always, how do we talk about this technology in relatable terms? Because even, what is a virtual assistant? What is an, AI? What does all that stuff mean? You got to come up with something that people can relate to. And so we were still struggling with that. We had an investor who said, well, hey, you should read the investment memo I wrote for this company. It might give you some inspiration. And so we read this thing, and he basically tells this story, which I'll tell you now, I'll repeat again, that completely nails exactly what our ambition was. So anyway, this gentleman, a good investor of ours, back in the day, before he was an investor, he was an entrepreneur, he was a hustler like the rest of us. He's just kind of moving and shaking, building relationships. And he had an opportunity to go to a meet and greet with President Bush Sr. Those of us with gray hair remember him. Good guy, ex-CIA, head of CIA too. I think a lot of people forget that. Really interesting guy. Anyhow, he gets into this big ballroom. So he buys his way in, big dinner. And as we all know, it's not about dinner. It's about glad handing and bumping elbows and building relationships. And everybody's kind of in that circle. So he arrives in this big ballroom, and he's just there to get the job done. He doesn't want to schmooze that much. He wants to just find President Bush and give his regards and build a relationship. So he scans this room all over the place. And across the other side of the room, there's Bush standing there. And he just beelines right for him. Probably made a couple Secret Service personnel nervous. About halfway across the room, he spots a guy standing next to Bush who's holding a clipboard. At that precise moment, looks up, looks at him, looks down, starts flipping, finds something, and then tugs on his shoulder. He whispers. Bush nods, doesn't stop what he's doing. He's continuing to greet people and say hello. Our intrepid investor, would-be investor, walks up right to him, sticks out his hand, and he says, nice to meet you, Mr. President. And President Bush turns around and says, hey, Martin, how are you? How's your wife, Susan, and your son, John? And I heard he just went to Dartmouth. My boy went to Dartmouth. We should have a conversation about that. And Martin's brain goes, how the heck does this guy know who I am and my family? Answer, he had an ear whisperer. And he's there to make him smarter, more productive, and keep him abreast of everything. I think the most recent examples we've seen, Elon Musk has 3 of them fall around and whisper various crap into his ear and make everybody think he's a super guy, when really he's just got a bunch of support around him. He's all whispering in his ear. Hint, we could build that for you too. So anyway, this is the idea that in this information age that we live in, we are exposed to way too much information. We can't keep it all in our head. And there's lots of context that if we had infinite time, we could pause life and go look up something like, who is this guy? Where do they work for? Who do I know that's intersects with them? All this other stuff. But who's got the time for that? In the meantime, we're all focused on human relationships. I don't have time to keep turning away from life to go figure this stuff out. Why can't I just build a piece of software that does that for me? And that was actually what we built.
It's such a great story and an origin of, why. I mean, so many things get built with no why behind them. Why are we doing
What's the value? What's the problem, then the solution, and the value of that solution?
Fast forward now to, I think a evolution of the product into something that really is designed and intended to help in the revenue production process, i.e. sales, and making people who are frankly trying to build personalized relationships so that they can gauge better with a prospect, so that they can qualify the prospect better, so that they can get the right information that they need to actually make a legitimate fit of whatever their technology turns out to be. Right. What is now AI? How is AI in your hands playing a role in developing that kind of personalization bridge between customers and prospects, or sellers and prospects rather?
Yeah, I'm gonna answer that question by telling you a lead up story about my partner and CEO Andrew. because I think it's a great context setting thing. So first of all, a little bit about Andrew and why his experience is unmatched, as I insist. I've met a bunch of great CROs throughout my career. All of them have 3 or 4 companies worth of experience under the belts. They're great. It's a lot. It's profound. You meet someone like Andrew, whose job was to run outsourced sales for other companies, over 300 of them in parallel. That's why his experience is unmatched. It's not just outsourced sales. It's end-to-end, start to finish, getting the deal done. And their compensation model wasn't time and materials. It was based on performance. If you didn't perform, you didn't make any money. So like he is unmatched and unparalleled in his experience. And that's what he brought to us. So we were, like I said, in 2024, like a lot of others, thinking about the horizontal approach. How can we build a product for the prosumer, bottoms up in the workplace, help SMBs, help enterprises, help everybody? And how can we do that in a way that facilitates everything? Because AI can be applied literally everywhere. And then we meet Andrew and we meet our new investors and this whole cohort of, they're not even great CROs. They're master CROs. I've been in a master class for the last 8 months. And this late in my career, I'm learning a ton still, which is amazing. Not the least of which is hire sales and marketing people sooner if you're building a company, because that's the whole point of the business, is to build a business and not a product and technology, as you just alluded to earlier.
Right.
And so we meet these guys. And I think one of the many things that we get out of this new set of relationships that we built was understanding how to verticalize this technology through a set of meaningful points of impact. So I could tell you a story about how Augment version 1 was this app you install on every device. It's a dot that follows you wherever app you're in. It's not a destination. It comes to you. It's with you all the time, and how it recognizes context and can make a recommendation in context. And you may or may not make the connection. Oh, I'm in the context of a sales thing, and I need to know who this person is, and I need someone to just whisper into my ear while I'm interacting with them. Who are they? How do I know them? Who do we have in common? All this other stuff. You might make that connection. Or you might look at it as these guys do and looked at what we had built through the lens of, I'm a master CRO and I am doing all this stuff on my own all the time. I'm doing that manually. I'm finding that information manually. I'm prepping myself manually. I'm looking up that manually. I'm making those connections manually. All is sort of this substrate upon which to build a strong, durable relationship with my customer here. And then you look at and go, okay, here's one concrete example. Great master CROs know that there are moments in interactions that can trigger, like, okay, he's just told me a story from last year where he visited town so-and-so and he had this great pizza. Let me immediately go find him 10 more great places to try out next time he's in town. Let me be of value and of service to this person, and create a moment that deepens the relationship or the connection that we have, such that, we have the rapport and we build the confidence and trust in one another, so that when it does come time to have a conversation about closing a sale, we have something to stand on that's more durable than just, here's a transaction, right? Because again, this is all about relationships. I've always known that my whole career, and now I'm surrounded by sales masters just shouting it at the top of their lungs. This is all about relationships. So, you could take the point of view of this horizontal thing and like, hey, it could apply to anywhere, and maybe you could figure that out on your own, or you could orient it entirely and say, we are going to create moments based on ongoing interactions with customers. So you are talking to a customer and you've got a couple emails out to them. You sent an SOW, you sent an MSA, you sent a bunch of other stuff for them to look at and read. There's been a couple meetings and more communications that have come across from a variety of different people with a couple different people on my end. Master salesperson goes, well, let me go mine all of that, look for some personal contact points, and then create some moments of connection and leaning in with being of service and of value to them, whether it's in a personal context or a professional context. Master person knows to do that. There aren't that many in the world, but now we program an AI to do that in real time for you, and ad hoc just pop up. Here's a suggested moment. Don't miss it. Here it is. And here's a schema for it. Do you want to use a video content? Because we can generate that for you. Do you want to use audio only? Do you just want to do text? And you can pick a couple different dials and sliders and it'll recommend something to you. Click a button and it will produce a piece of content and or a point of contact. Like, I want to reach out and send them a calendar invite to come join me for beers on such and such date or join me for a really nice dinner on such and such date because I'm going to be in town.
Right.
And let's, build that relationship. And I'll give them 3 places that they can choose from, and they don't need to worry about it because I'm going to book it and handle and everything. And we have AI that can do that. That's really powerful. It's actually the same tech as before, but the way it lands in terms of compelling value and impact and meaningfulness, how it moves it's not about writing more emails. Writing more emails does not get you more business. It's about creating connection and building stronger, more durable relationships between buyers and sellers. And that's the whole framework. And I'm not just saying it's the same exact thing as before. We've definitely taken it to the next level by understanding these really meaningful use cases and impact points. But that's what it looks like differently, is it stops being about how can I use AI? And you end up just using a product and service that just helps you build better relationships with your customers and enable them to move through whatever process they need to on their side of the deal, which is where actually buyers spend most of their time. They spend less than 20% of their time with sellers when they're working through a particular deal. Anything valued over 10 grand, it's basically the same stats. Anything with an ACV of 10 grand or greater, they spend more than 80% of their time on their side, trying to get through gates, trying to convince people, trying to prepare proposals, trying to, reschedule meetings so they can be had again. And there's another use of AI. It's like, well, how can we bring all this together and enable the buyer to be able to produce on their own whatever content they needed? Oh, I'm talking to the CFO. Give me a spreadsheet. Give me a forecast of what, my per license growth, from this number of seats to this number of seats by the end of the year. Give me a forecast I can give to them so they can understand the cost. Give me a PowerPoint, a 5-slide PowerPoint of, the salient deal points that I can give to my CEO. Normally they come to us and they might ask us for that, or they might ask you for that, or you might like the master CROs in the room go, they're going to want that. And they're going to want a PowerPoint and an Excel and a PDF and a Word version. That's a lot of work. But you're master and you'll do it. Another, that was one of the key insights that they had when they came to meet us, is like, my God, we could automate most of everything that we do that builds meaningful, durable relationships. This is the future.
And I think that the emphasis, again, is not necessarily on automation for the sake of making things go faster. It's really automation in service of making things better. And recognizing, that I've never been, quote, in sales, but if you've been an entrepreneur.
Oh my gosh, you were a salesperson through and through. What are you talking about?
I mean, you have to, on your own company's behalf, for your own survival, you have to learn how to sell. And I read early in my career, I read a book called The Complex Sale. And it was really the first kind of textbook on how incredibly complicated large company sales can be. And really, it trickles down to the smallest company. And when you've got someone who's very deliberate and very thoughtful and very much gathers all the thoughts before making a decision, it's complicated. And navigating basically what all the check marks are going to be in that person's decision-making processes is really, really tough. I'm just curious how the AI as an assistant in this case, and maybe that's not the right word, but as your kind of your co-salesperson sitting there right on your wing.
Your wingman.
How does it kind of extract that quality of information that is going to inform a really better communication strategy that the salesperson is going to use? Is it looking for patterns? Is it looking for repetition? Is it kind of in its own way programmed to kind of look for the insights of, he said that the real decision maker is his co-owner, his wife. What is it doing?
Which is usually true anyway, right?
Usually true.
Yeah, that one's not a hard one to program in. No, I think it's all of AI starts with data, and there's certainly an ecosystem that has APIs. If you use Microsoft, you use Google, even with Apple, there's apps you can plug into to pull content from. The way people do business on both sides of deal varies widely, and not everything that we use, especially in today's app ecosystem, has APIs. So there's often an incomplete picture. Let's take, for example, like, I don't know about you, but I've been solicited over text message by random phone numbers before, and I'll just playfully respond, but occasionally I'll find something that was actually of interest, which is really interesting. I got a new banker from doing that, which is really great. They're awesome. But I think that is the kind of thing that can't be plugged into and pulled in normally.
Right.
And I think one of the very first sort of transition, lenses put on our technology that we built in the sales viewpoint was, hey, we're all multi-channel. We talk to our customers over text, we talk over email, we'll leave them voicemails, we'll have meetings with them. Sometimes, we'll have live meetings with them. That's a whole undiscovered country right there. I'll talk about in just a second. But we don't have a single source of truth. And the bigger a deal gets, the more people that are involved, the more gates there are, the more points of touch there are, the more people on my side of the deal might be involved. As SMB people, it's usually just us or maybe a small team, but there's still multiple contact points. And there is no single source of truth. There is no system of record of all those things in one place. Mm-hmm. We are living that pain right now as a company ourselves, dealing with other businesses. Supposedly one of the great chiefs of customer focus, Salesforce, has lately not been that pleasant to work with in terms of trying to get access to their Agentforce product.
Right.
Their own sales team doesn't even know how to give it to you, but they'll gladly let you pay for it. Really kind of a bummer for us. But we had we had a number of conversations with them where they were describing like, hey, you're going to get a bot, you did this, you did that. And we're almost certain someone said that was Agentforce. Apparently it's not. Bots and Agentforce, same thing, different product, different SKU, can't have it. But we thought we'd been promised that. We even wrote the check. It was a 5-digit check. It's not a small check. And then only to find out we didn't get it. But we knew someone had said it. But because Salesforce wasn't using technology like ours, and there was no source of truth for every interaction and every conversation that happened, we had no way to go back and find, hey, you said it was going to be Agentforce. We didn't get it. So we live this pain today. Every salesperson who's done any kind of complex sale, like the book talks about, knows that this is a real big problem. You can use, back to your question though, getting all the data together is hard problem one. And we do that. So we're, crawl, walk, run strategy. The run will be the dot, like we've had for all this time, which is the shoulder surfer. It's remembering everything you see, but we'll start out, pulling from APIs and things that everybody uses today. And we're continuing to evolve that pretty quickly this year. So we get the data, and then yes, there are things that you can program in heuristically, like you just said, there's these moments that we kind of can anticipate and look for. Like if they say these words and pull it out as a and stamp it on the deal.
I want to buy.
Key points. I want to buy. Yeah. It's funny, actually, a little digression here, how often salespeople, and sometimes we'll miss this, like even as SMB people will miss this, they don't want to build a relationship. They literally do just want to transact. They're literally saying, I want to buy. No, customer, let me take you through the story and the pitch and let me say, no. Just give me the information and I'll go make a decision. And we literally have that built into the product now. You can self-identify that up front. It's a really simple insight that most products and most salespeople just aren't familiar with. It's which gets us to the actual most important, one of the most valuable things that we're building in the technology is this idea of matching. Mm-hmm. Okay. So again, because it's about relationships, not everybody gets along with everybody. Right. You and I get along famously, but I don't know, maybe there's someone else that you wouldn't get along with, someone else I wouldn't get along with. And that's okay. It doesn't make us bad people or wrong. It just means we're not a fit for each other. In sales, this is really relevant if you buy the truth. That is, it's all about relationships, right? Mm-hmm. So how quickly can we identify what kind of buyer they are, and how quickly can we build a model around what kind of seller you are? And then how can we in real time identify, oh, Joe over here is a better fit for you. So it's not about territory anymore, which is this ancient, archaic way of thinking about things. It's literally about who's the best person to build this relationship with and move you through your needs and get you the solution that you need and get the deal done. And so that's another piece that's underneath
itself is fascinating, because I think we've all seen, that the way in which most sales teams are kind of organized is around geographies and territories or tiers of business. It's anything but what actually matters in a relationship.
Right.
And it's
wrong. It's all wrong.
It's just plain wrong. I think one of the things you were saying before as well, that this idea that the sales process is driven primarily by tools that only help to guess forecasting.
Yeah.
That's supposedly what they're ingenious at, So, I mean, I
Are they
use a
though?
platform called Pipeline. And
Mm.
really what it forces you to do is to put an assessment on every
A
single
structure.
thing. Where am I? Am
Yeah.
I this close to closing? Am I that far from closing? What is it? And when it really boils down to it, having done this for seven years, it's all about a relationship that really is kind of moving along this continuum with huge variability at any given point in time. And I wouldn't even begin to say it's at this stage, that it's 3 weeks away from closing. Who the fuck knows? I mean,
Well,
I mean,
yeah, no, you're not wrong. But I think, another thing I'm learning after 25 years of doing this, I didn't know before, is that, one of the problems is basically the way it's taught to be done, which is we think of it in terms of our process, our sales process. First, we have the initial call, then we have the assessment and the contract and this and that, and these are my gates. And those forecasting tools are based on my gates. For something that the buyer spends less than 20% of their time dealing with, there's a viewpoint of their gates. And when we start looking at the process through their lens and how to move them through their gates, which are not the same as our gates, you actually do have a better viewpoint of where you stand in the deal. Right. I think the difference is, as SMBs, we have more license to be honest with ourselves. But as salespeople in a larger organization, we kind of got to sandbag a little bit and hope for the best, because our numbers, we need those numbers where they are in order to get our bonuses.
Right. Exactly. So, let's shift. By the way, I want you to come to Sonoma just to talk about this and even demonstrate where the product is at this point, because I think it's an object lesson for anybody who's involved in this highly fragmented, complicated sale to small businesses at scale.
If you sell at scale to small business, you need to be here. The 7th Annual B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum, May 14th and 15th in Sonoma, gathers business to small business executives from dozens of major brands to talk shop. The winning, keeping, and growing of SMB customers. Our 2025 B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum extends the central theme of our 2024 events, selling successfully in a small business marketplace that's seen extraordinary growth and change in the last 2 years. Combining keynotes from B2SMB sales superstars with frequent small-sided breakouts, the 2025 Leaders Forum presents research-based insights, best practice playbooks, and a steady dialogue of shared wisdom on winning, keeping, and growing SMB customers. Our B2SMB Institute Leaders Forum sold out these last 2 years, so it's not too early to save your spot at our top-to-top networking and strategy exchange for senior B2SMB execs. Get your tickets today at b2smbi.com/leadersforum25. Are you ready to master the new sell? Join us for the 6th Annual Leaders Forum in Sonoma, hosted by the B2SMB Institute. Tickets now on sale for the B2SMB Institute 2025 Leaders Forum. Members attend free. Email info@b2smbi.com for more information.
Let's talk about the AI cliff.
Yes.
First, explain what it is, because when I first heard it, I knew it was a really clever turn of phrase, but I didn't really know what it meant. So tell me what you mean by the AI cliff.
Yeah, I think it was actually Andrew that came to this first, and it's such a brilliant, again, another thing about how you can be a technologist immersed in everything and be on the roller coaster towards a particular destination, but someone new looking at it through a new lens sees it with such clarity. You're like, oh, you're not wrong. Basically, it's this notion that, technology has been helping to accelerate, right? Not necessarily make more efficient, but definitely accelerate more effective, various activities. And so, we start out with like these direct person-to-person relationships. And every time we automate something, we increase speed, but we also decrease value. And I think we've just arrived at this point now, this idea of a cliff where, and I made this comment in our last get together as a group. AI is an accelerator. It's an amplifier. It can make great people better, but it can make bad people far worse. And the impact of, 5 bad emails is something, but the impact of 50 bad emails is incredibly worse. right? And can tank a whole business. And so the cliff is this idea that as we continue to optimize and make, things faster and more disconnected from people and further away from relationships, we stand at the precipice of this cliff where we just drop to zero in value, where we're back to 2002. We're all getting, our inboxes are being overwhelmed with spam. There's no signal. It's all noise, and no one really cares to listen anymore. That's the idea of a cliff. So how can we shift away from, automating mundane and menial tasks, but not automating the meaningful, impactful tasks, instead augmenting you to do better at those impactful tasks as a co-pilot, as a wingman, not as a, I will take that from you and do it for you kind of thing. And that's how we climb back out of that valley to the top of the cliff again. And we're building a ton of technology around that we think meaningful moves that dial forward. Again, not AI as in we are generative text, not AI as in we will write emails for you, but AI as in we will match you with the right people. We will suggest meaningful moments and how to build those engagements with people, and a whole bunch of other stuff that's really oriented on the problem. Problem is not writing emails. The problem is building strong relationships with customers.
Right. And not to put you on the spot, but how do you imagine we will articulate that caution to small business adopters of AI to tell them, look, guys, you're just going to be a kid in a candy store for the first week. You're going to be doing shit that you never thought you could do. And I will use myself as an example. You know, in the early fall when I started using ChatGPT and Claude and Perplexity and others, I enjoyed it so much. And as I reflected after a few weeks of using it, I ain't done shit. I really haven't done anything. I haven't sold anything from this, that's for sure. But anyway, how do you think we'll articulate that caution to small business?
I do want to talk about that just for a second, because it is a thing I do like to talk about. We're surrounded with AI right now, right? And everyone's like, I got this AI tool and that AI tool and that plugin and that and this other. And I think even still, like, you can have a ChatGPT window and an Anthropic Claude window and a whatever, Perplexity window open and be interacting with them. But like day to day, week to week, month to month, the way we do our jobs is a well-honed path in our brain. The way we think about setting about to do work. And I think part of the challenge for horizontal tools and why you find yourself in these quickly verticalized scenarios with AI is because you got to be really in with a context specific situation before you know to go use AI. The problem with using AI is that our mindsets are not oriented towards that. So I'll give you an example in development. Like, we have one particular editor that's really good at in editor. If you're, what we call an integrated development environment, if you're trying to accomplish a task, you can ask it questions. It'll even find bugs in your code for you and fix them for you. That's really profound. But you're an engineer and you've been doing this like me for 25 years. And that's not the first, second, or third thing you think about. You think about, well, I need to go look at the code, or I need to go look at the commits, and I need to go go look at the commit history, and go to test this and look at the test results and the builds. Oh, wait a minute. I can just ask the AI. Well, let's do that. We got another AI tool, little plug called Devin.ai, DEVIN. It's some next level stuff. Like, OpenAI seems to be taking a lot of credit for reasoning models around ON and O3, but like, there's smaller models that have been doing reasoning and taking action and doing multimodal stuff for a while. Devin's a perfect example of it. You just chat with it on Slack. Hey, I think there's a bug in the so-and-so. Can you fix the UI? Done. That's all you say. And It goes off, it finds it, it knows. And when it's done, you get a PR, a code change review for you to look at. Powerful. We could have done most of our work that way.
Right.
But like, no one remembered to do that. It's the building of those habits to redefine your mindset about how you think about going after AI. I read this recent blog post by somebody who's talking about how Google has trained us for self-sufficiency. Just go Google that. Go find that information on your own. Go do that yourself. We've so ingrained and programmed in our brains that we don't remember to reset and go, wait a minute, I don't have to do that myself. What if the AI could do that for me? Now, doing something for me is not write me this email. Doing something for me is like, help me build a stronger relationship, suggest a moment. So we look at it as a higher value thing, but like, it's really interesting that the challenge that most people face today, even as they're surrounded by all these tools, is remembering to use them or knowing when and how to use them. I love Notion's AI as an example. Like, we use it a lot. We love Notion here at this company. And, I could remember to go into ChatGPT, like write an outline of my ideas and kind of expand it. Like we gotta put together a customer service plan. I can put in some input and have a good, but if I don't remember to go do that, I'm still in Notion. I'm still typing it out. Notion put AI right there. It's constantly suggesting stuff for me. Oh, highlight, ask AI, expand these bullet points into full prose, whatever, blah, 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 blah. And then you have your thing done. By being closer and more integrated and more vertically aligned with the scenario that you're in, you get better results. So back to what you were talking about earlier. At our last conference, I remember before I spoke, there was another gentleman, a very energetic, enthusiastic guy up there saying, oh, everybody should get these tools. Everybody should be using them. Everybody should immerse themselves in it. And I'm sitting there going, I'm about to get on stage and tell them this is the exact wrong thing to do.
Yeah.
Because every mistake you make will be amplified. So it'll only be great if if you're doing the right thing, but if you're doing the wrong thing, odds are you've just done a lot worse than you had before. And I think, the best worst case is what you just described, where you have all these tools, you use them and you get all this dopamine, all this excitement, enthusiasm, being part of the latest, greatest craze. And then you really haven't gotten much done. I think that's the best outcome. The worst outcome is you surround yourself with all these tools and you've just taken, in its most basis form, a terrible way to engage over email, and you've amplified it, 100 times worse, either in quality, worse quality because the AI's just taking a cue from you, or in quantity in terms of your ability to pump more of them out.
Yeah, and it's such an important conversation, Jordan, and I appreciate, what you're laying out, because I don't think there's enough really, I'm not seeing at least enough in the vein of communications directed at entrepreneurs and small businesses that really puts in perspective, how are you going to use this tool? How are you going to interact with this tool? What are your expectations going to be? What should your expectations be of yourself? All of these things. And I think that is, especially for those brands that are building more and more AI into their business management system, like a Visita. And it's great. I mean, it's absolutely terrific features and agents, as they're called, that are really making the processes that the platform takes care of, making them so much richer and so much interactive with the small business owner. That said, the AI cliff is basically, okay, we've kind of wrung that goose. Now it's time to really move on to things that are where I want to segue next is really into what can AI recognize that helps us actually create new offerings, new businesses, new ways of doing business. And is it, and I know you feel strongly about this, but does it always produce good results when you ask AI to be your creativity partner?
Yeah, there's a lot in that. I think I want to key off that last word you used, which is creativity, because I think there's a much broader conversation happening right now, worldwide, not even just industry wide, around what's the impact on creativity. I think at the end of the day, relationships, they have to be real, they have to be genuine. I'm in the camp of I'm probably in the small camp of people who think Twitter was not a great thing at the end of the day, and TikTok is probably not helping either our national security or actually our people's opinions of themselves. I don't think that technology is a panacea for all things, and I think at the end of the day, one panacea that does exist is stronger human interaction with people. Right. We are biologically evolved for.
Right.
So there's certain chemicals we literally cannot have in our brains. They won't produce them unless we touch each other.
Right.
Called oxytocin, right? This doesn't happen over digital. So look, going back to creativity, I think there's ways in which AI can boost quote unquote creativity. And that is, for example, helping me build a stronger relationship with you, and in a sales context, going back to the example I used earlier, we have this whole history of interactions. They span space and time, span across devices, span across, text and email and whatever inside of systems. And then over time, it's been going on for 3, 6, 9 months. I don't have it all in my head. But if I did, I would know, oh, you're about to have another birthday and you like to golf for your birthday. And maybe I should get you like a day, an 18-hole pass to this golf course that's really nice near you. If I had that all in my head, I could do that. And that's meaningful. I would do that, but I can't have it all in my head. And so it'd be great if AI could look for that kind of stuff and at the right time. Oh, it's a month before their birthday. You should go check this out and offer this to them. And here's some things to pick from, or here's how to think about it at least. And then send them a video note along with it. And you have a little quick recording and send the whole thing off for me and give them a nice little summary. Like that to me is an example of doing something useful creatively that is genuine and still authentic. I think there's lots of examples where it's not, where help me write more personal sounding emails that I actually never even read is terrible and horrible. And by the way, most of us can still tell.
I know.
It's like one little thing that's off.
Right?
It's crazy. It's like, when you're talking to human, when you're not. We haven't crossed the uncanny valley just yet, but we're getting there, but it still doesn't feel real. I think one might think communications is an act of creativity, but it's not. It's supposed to be an act of authenticity and of meaning and value. And it's just like the spam problem. It's like, no, more of this crap is not good for me. And I think the broader thing going on in the industry and in the world is like, what if the creative stuff, like making art or making music? And I don't have much good news for you there, right? In a consumer-based economy, people buy what they like. And if they like it, they don't care where it came from. And it is true. You can train models on Mozart and Beethoven and Rachmaninoff and Tchaikovsky and Mussorgsky and Shostakovich and all my favorite Russian composers and come out with something beautiful and consumable and monetizable and didn't come from a person. That to me, not great. But it is probably in our future.
Definitely not great. And I think that I do wonder where the audience, the consumer, will step in and say, no, that's not what I want. I want to see, that 12-year-old basically bang out an original composition that truly is original.
I mean, it is pretty cool to watch, right?
It's kind of like, it's just...
It's impressive.
Yes, it's impressive.
If impressiveness were value.
And not to make a pitch for the quote proper use of creativity, proper use of AI towards creativity. But what I've noticed is in the incubator that I'm pretty involved in here in Chicago called 1871, that AI in the kind of the entrepreneurial brainstorming sessions can actually accelerate creativity, can actually inform in such a way that, frankly, the creators can actually do one of the most important things of a creative process, and that's connect the dots and see, oh, okay, got it. And so I'm sure I'm going to be very curious to see this year how, in the hands of so many tens of millions of people, what are we going to actually see as the byproduct of AI? Particularly when it is not just a product sold to SMBs, but when it is a tool in the hand of SMBs, then it's going to start really getting fucking interesting.
Then I think it's interesting. Yeah.
Last thing I'll ask you, kind of off the agenda, but I just, and you don't have to spend a lot of time in this because you're being very generous with your time. I read this the other day. I don't really know who, I don't know if this is a Scott Galloway original. I don't know who basically came up with this. But the idea is that we are moving from a software as a service marketplace into a service as a software marketplace. And the explanation was really SaaS by design and forever has been to create software that is applied to a process and forces it to fit basically the programmatic steps of the software. Whether you like it or not, God damn it, you're going to do your books the way QuickBooks tells you to do your books. And that what we're now confronting is flip it around. AI in the hands of people who hold their processes very near and dear and precious are going to say, no, I am not going to actually use QuickBooks. I have ideas that AI can assist me in building tools and processes that better fit what I think are good for my business.
This is a great example, actually, because I think I might have something controversial to say about that.
Okay, go.
I have advised, I don't know, 50 companies at this point across my career, and maybe 5 of them know how to run a P&L. There's a lot to be said by learning from QuickBooks what one way is to do it.
Oh, you mean, we pay taxes? We have to pay taxes?
We have to pay, right? And to local, state, and federal, and, depending where you live, there's, B&O taxes, and there's this, and like compliance and regulation. Like, I don't know. I'm in the camp of like, experience is a great teacher, but, and failure is a great teacher, but failing a business, maybe not so much. And you got to learn from somewhere. And I worry, so I'll counterpoint you there. And I worry that we will enter this world where, yes, it's this beautiful view of like anything I want, I can ask for and get because some agentic thing can go off and do it for me. But do I know what the hell I'm talking about? Do I know what the hell it is I actually want? And is that thing it produces of actual value without knowing that this is the right thing that should be done? I would just challenge that. I'm not, that's a legit challenge. I think there's truth to that. And in the hands of, I'll go back to that development use case I gave you earlier. Like, if I know what needs to be done, I will tell it because I know. Go do that, right? But, there's all these people who are now just starting to write about what I've already been saying for a while, which is if you don't know what you're doing, then you don't know what it's doing. And there are all these people who are jumping in with these ideas of how things should be done, about how to build a piece of software. They don't know how to program. They don't know how to code, but they know how to write English. And there's this whole thing like, oh, English is the new programming language. Like, to a certain extent, yes, but not really, because if you don't understand what's being produced underneath, then you're not in a position to know if it's the right thing. And you could be very easily led down the wrong path. I am speaking in the abstract, but like in the development case, it's like, it made me it made me a set of commits. Like, I can go look at that. And if I don't know what I'm looking at, I don't know if it's right. And if I do it again and again and again, it compounds. In your case of building a business, or maybe, I don't know, financial accounting might not be a great example for this, but like, just to use it as an example, if I don't know what the right thing is to do, then I don't know if what it's proposed is correct and whether I can rely on it.
Exactly right. And I mean, in the hands of a website design, for instance, as an example of, I'm going to strut my creativity as an entrepreneur in how I design this website. Well, guess what? You have no user experience, no user interface knowledge whatsoever. And even if you ask AI to cover that base for you, be careful. You might not really get the result that you really want to.
That's right.
Hey, this has been absolutely fascinating and an incredibly generous gift of your time and your insights. I always appreciate it very, very much. Thank you. Have a wonderful week. Look forward to seeing you in Sonoma for our Leaders Forum, and hope you'll be a very active, as you always are, very active speaker from the stage.
I'll do my best. Great.
Thanks, Jordan Ritter.
Nice
Take care.
Hey,
thanks for joining us for this episode of Between 2Bs, the official podcast of the B2SMB Institute and our 5,000 plus business to small business professionals. Tune in every Wednesday for new episodes at the crossroads of the big B and the small B. Between 2Bs on your favorite streaming services.